All right. So, um, I'll just narrate this story again. Basically, what's happening here. So the Israelites have come out of Egypt, and they were on their way to Canaan, the promised land that God has promised for to them. And on their way, they've actually crossed this desert of sin, and then they've traveled from place as the Lord commanded, and then they camp at this place called Rephidim. And then in this place, Rephidim, also just before the Amalekites came, they actually were having some troubles. So they were thirsty and then they were longing for water, but then they couldn't get any water. So they started complaining to Moses. And then even Moses, if you read the previous verse, he said, "What am I to do with these people?" He cried out to God. "They are almost ready to stone me." And then the Lord answered Moses. He said, "Go out in front of the people, take with you some of the elders, and your hand and staff, which you struck the Nile, and then water will come out." So Moses did exactly that, and then water came out from the rock, and so they were able to drink that water. And then, so um, immediately after that event, maybe we don't know yet. Maybe it's one day before that, or after that, or maybe just immediately on that day itself. We don't know. So the Amalekites came. These Amalekites are actually, I just want to give you a background. They are from the family, they are from the, actually from the family of Esau. I think you all know Esau. He's one of Isaac's son, the brother of Jacob. So these Amalekites, they are from the line of Esau. And so they actually have this, ever since Jacob, he, so to say, he kind of betrayed his brother. Some of his followers, or maybe some of Esau's um, generations, some of Esau's generations does have that, what do you call it, hatred towards these Jewish people, or towards the people of Israel. So while they were camping at this Rephidim, the Amalekites came and attacked the Israelites. And then immediately Moses, he called out Joshua, and then he said, "Choose some of our men and go out to fight the Amalekites. Tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill with the staff of God in my hand." So he said, "You choose some of the men, you go and fight these people. As for me, I will go on top of the mountain, and then with the staff of God in my hands, that means I will go out and pray." And then Joshua fought the Amalekites. So from morning they've started fighting. So he fought the Amalekites, and then so Moses, he went up on top of the hill together with Aaron and Hur. And then when Moses held up his hands, Joshua is winning. And as soon as Moses, he grew tired, his hands grew tired, so his hands started coming down. At that time, he started losing the battle. Joseph started losing the battle. And then what happened was, um, those who were with him, Aaron and Hur, they held up Moses' hand, one on one side and the other on the other side. So they held up his hands, and then so that's how Joshua overcame the Amalekites. They were able to win the Amalekites with the sword. And after that win, uh, God actually made a promise to Moses. He told Moses to write down the scroll, and that to write on the scroll, because he will make this promise that he will completely blot out the name of the Amalek from under the heaven. That means he will remove the Amalek and his generations from under the heavens. That means they will be wiped out. There will be no more. And if you actually check, if you check from the internet, really, like, the Amalek tribes are no more to this day. Actually, they have disappeared, or they have completely vanished, or maybe all of them have completely died throughout these years. So actually what God has promised also is actually happening. So, and then after that, Moses, he built an altar and he called it, "The Lord is my banner." And then, because why? Because the hands, uh, because the people have because these Amalekites have fight against the Lord, and then against the throne of the Lord, and therefore the Lord will be at war with the Amalekites from generation to generation. So that's why he said, "The Lord's my banner." Now, actually, I want to. So maybe you've heard of this story, but again, I want to narrate like what are the things that we can learn from here. Now, mainly from here, what I want to focus on is that what I want to focus is on the point of learning to fight together with God. Learning to fight together with God. So if you if you if you see here, the Amalekites came out of nowhere, right? And they came and attacked Israel out of nowhere. So even in our case also, most often I will try to represent these Amalekites in as troubles. So in our case also, oftentimes like troubles they usually come out of nowhere, right? For example, if we consider this pandemic, really like it comes out of nowhere. We didn't have like we didn't expect that it would affect so much as like it would reach this point. And when we don't know, right? We don't know when it will stop. So just like this trouble, like other kinds of troubles also, not only because this is like a global trouble that's happening to people all over the world. There might be a trouble in our community as well. There might be troubles for our family members, among our families, or maybe there might be there might be personal troubles as well. So all these kind of troubles usually like most of the time they come like without without expectation. So when these kind of troubles come, what do we do? What we can learn from here is that Moses, he he formed out a plan. He formed out a plan with Joshua, and then he asked Joshua to go and fight, to do the physical fighting, but he himself he will go and do the spiritual fighting. That means so even in our case also, when trouble comes, it's not necessarily important like all the time like to go out by ourselves. Therefore like means to go out and handle the problems ourselves. We will try to handle the problems ourselves. Suppose a trouble comes among the family, usually like we'll try to do it on our own, right? As a family we'll try to do it to try to overcome these troubles on our own. Most of the time like that will never bear fruit. That will never bear fruit most of the times. And that's why it is important to together with like with um going out there and handle various kind of problems. Maybe like it could be trouble with your neighbor, it could be trouble that comes from anywhere, right? Most of the times like if you consider about family, then usually like it's troubles because of the happen because of the neighbors, or maybe like in terms of sickness in that comes in a family, right? Maybe one of the family members got sick or something like that, or maybe an accident, could be anything, right? So at that time comes like usually what we are supposed to do, what we've learned from here is that we should also pray, right? Together with um, doing the physical work, that means handling of these problems, whatever case may be, handling with the neighbors or maybe handling how to handle the accident that has occurred. We need to first pray to God so that God will be with us in these fightings, in these in fighting these troubles. And then another thing that we learn from here is that Joshua, like Moses, like he planned out. He said to Joshua to go and do the physical fighting. He didn't say like, let us all pray. We won't do anything. We'll simply pray, sit quiet and pray. So that is also another thing. Like most of the times we believe like, yes, prayer is good, but let's not forget also, together with prayer, we also need sometimes we need to use our hands, we need to use our feet, we need to use our mouth, because God has granted us the ability to do these things. Sometimes like what we can it's because like I want to say is that um God has given us this ability, right, to use our hands, to use our feet, to use our thinking, to use our minds, and then to use our um capability, our physical capability to handle some of the problems, right? So it's not necessarily important like whenever trouble comes, like we'll only sit quiet and pray. That is not the solution. Instead, like together with praying, physical like your physical participation is also important. That is what we can learn from here. So in brief, what I want to say is that so using only our own effort is not an option, or sometimes using only praying by only praying is also not an option, because like yes, in times when like there's no nothing we can do, right? For example, if we're far away and then like there's nothing we can do physically, yes, at that time like we really need to pray. Our prayer is like the most important thing. And then, but like if we're the trouble like comes right in front of you, right? If the trouble like is right in front of you, so you can't expect to just go hide and then to go in your room, like lock the door and then pray and expect like everything will be fine. Because like we must remember also, like God has also granted us this ability to do certain things in our life, whether it's our words, again I'll repeat, whether it's our words, our minds, our hands, our feet, whatever it may be. As 2 Corinthians 12:10 says, when you've done everything you can do, that's when God will step out and do what you can. That's what actually this is paraphrasing. I'm paraphrasing this 2 Corinthians 12:10. When you've done everything you can do, that's when God will step out and do what you can. So this is what we can learn from this verse. And then like um so so now like I've told you that together with when trouble comes, we need to pray, and then we need to do our to do as well as use our physical means to fight, to overcome those troubles, right? But then like sometimes is it enough? Sometimes you ask the question like sometimes is it enough? Sometimes like I'll tell you like the battle, like the struggles that we face are very long. Like the struggle that we face are long. It does not go in an instant, does not come spontaneously and go away spontaneously, right? Immediately. Instead, like the battle sometimes will be very long, like it will take months or it will take years, just like this pandemic, like we've seen right now. As you s- as I think like all of us have realized that as soon as this pandemic comes, what we've done is that we've prayed, right? We've prayed a lot, because like obviously like um by our physical means we cannot do anything. Obviously we can only use our we can only encourage each other in these times, and then that's by using the mouth or maybe our hands, right? And then we've also prayed, but then like as we have seen, like the battle is not over yet. It's already been months, and then like we are still facing this pandemic. So the battle could, like it could be long. So just like Moses also, like the fight that they're having, it didn't go like in 30 minutes it is over. Instead, like from morning till the sunset, till sunset, actually from morning till sunset. Imagine Moses raising up his hand. Imagine yourself raising up your hands from morning. Let's say from 6 o'clock you have to raise your hands, right? You have to raise your hands from 6 o'clock. Obviously like over time you will grow weary, right? So immediately also like for all of us, when the battle is long and hard, sometimes we cannot do anything by ourselves. Like we cannot do anything by ourselves. Like we become tired, we become exhausted. Yes, we pray, but then like also there will be those times where like where you feel like I've been praying for this long and still like I don't see any fruit. I don't see the good results or good response that's coming out. So that is why at this time we need support from others as well. So just like Moses, he has the support of Aaron and her, who actually held up his hands, help him in raising his hands, right? So that the battle will be won. So also for us as well, um, we need someone uh, we need someone to help us like in our troubles. For example, if I may give the case obviously, like, I don't want this for anyone, but let's say like there is a, let's say somebody has got sick, right? As there's a chronic disease, obviously, like, as soon as we got it, yes, um yes, like, we will pray, you'll pray and pray. Let's say it is for yourself, let's say it's for yourself, let's say you've got a disease, a chronic disease, and like over time you'll pray, and then you'll keep on praying and praying, and then it's been months, and then you haven't got healing yet, and then maybe 2 months, and then years, and you haven't got healing yet, right? Over time you actually grow weary, and then you said like, maybe this is just it, this is just what I'm meant to be. So we often give up, right? And then that's like, that's when we lose the battle. So at this time, at such cases, like, we need the support of others. That means we need to share our problems, we need to share our problems with others, so that others maybe who have faced similar situations, or maybe others as well, who have faced similar situations, they can give us advice on what we can do. And or maybe if even if they don't face similar situations also, they can always encourage you, right? They will help you find like, grant you back the ability to pray, grant you back the ability um to have that faith, like, yes, God will heal me, like, yes, he will heal me no matter what happens. i will I will achieve good results soon. Like, that's why, like, also, so what we can learn from this part is that if the battle is long and hard, so we grow tired and get distracted from raising our arms and praying to God. And then, so that is why we need to have the support of others. Now, the support, in what way, like, can we support others, right? In what way can we support others? Now here they've mentioned like, uh, Aaron and her actually held up Moses' hands. So in a similar way also, in what way can we, as a Christian believers, can we provide support to our other Christian believers who are facing suffering or who are facing any struggles, right, at certain point in time? So I would like to list out, in what way, just a few things, what way we can support them. The first one is, by loving each other. First is like, in order to be able to support one another, first we need to have a love for one another. Okay, so if you go with me to First Peter chapter 1 verse 22. First Peter chapter 1 verse 22, he said, now that you have purified yourself by obeying the truth, so that you have sincere love for each other, love one another deeply from the heart. Okay, love one another deeply from the heart. So in order to be able to support one another, first, like, we need to have a love for one another, we need to have a love for them. Obviously, like, we cannot truly support the person we hate, right? We cannot truly support them from our heart. We cannot give them our best. We cannot give them our best when we don't like them, right? It happens like that. So that's why, like, we need to have a love for one another first. We need to have a love for one another, for that person, in order to be able to truly support him. And then the other thing that we can do to support is through prayer. Through prayer. James, James chapter 5, James chapter 5, verse 16. James chapter 5, verse 16, it says, therefore confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. So confess your sins to each other, right? Because, like, everyone here on earth is having some trouble, is facing trouble every now and then. And every person, like, have gone through suffering, right? Whether it's personally or maybe a family as a whole, maybe as a community as a whole, we've had our sufferings. Yes, so that's why, like, it's important to share with each other these sufferings, share with each other like what you have done wrong, or maybe what others have done wrong to you, so that we can pray for each other, and like so that we can do what is right. Okay, so that we can do what is right, so that you may be healed. And I'm not only talking about physical healing, I'm not only talking about physical healing. You may be healed sometimes. Like I most often, like I think each and every one of us here have faced this. When we share our problems with one another, actually we feel like somewhat burden has been lifted. Maybe that burden has been lifted, like a weight has been taken away from us, isn't it? I think like it's the same for each and one of you, because I feel like that sometimes when I face like really like struggles, like I can't bear it anymore. So if I started, if I start sharing with one another, with my friend, or it could be a family member, if I share with them, and then like somehow like I feel comfort, I feel I found like peace. Okay, so that is what like we must do also. We must pray for each other, because the prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. And then another thing we can do for each other is to correct one another, right? To correct one another. Now often what we found is that people have often, like nowadays, people have mistaken correction for judgment. If we try and correct another person, that another person will automatically think like he's judging me or she's judging me. Why is he judging me? That is often the case. If you see, like especially like in the West, so to say, um, I'm not because like I'm saying this because like, oh, most of the times I've seen this. Like if you say any wrong thing also to another person, or if you say anything to the person that that person has find it offended, that person found offended, actually the what you will hear is that I will sue you, right? I will see you in court, or how dare you say this and this to me, right? The people, like they don't want to be offended anymore. Like even when they did wrong, when you say things like in order to correct them also, they will find it offensive. They will find it offensive. And like I feel like I don't want this to happen uh to us like Christians, because like yes, like people maybe who are not Christians, they may act like that, but then for us who have known Christ, who have known the love of Christ, and who have known like how important it is to walk the Christian path, so that we may be able to be with Christ when our time on earth is done. I find like it is very important that we must always accept correction, and we must correct one another every time. Like it is not it is not like it's not like a purpose, it's not like what to say, good for us if we just keep silent. If you see another person is doing wrong, and if we just keep silent, that is not also a good thing. Especially I'm talking about our Christian brothers and sisters, for our Christian brothers and sisters. So if we see another person like doing something wrong, like we will just keep quiet and let them do their own way. That is not the good thing, because ultimately what we're doing is that they've sinned, and then like we have not correct them, so like they may not know that they've sinned. Sometimes they may not know that they've sinned, like we may be ignorant, right, of certain things. So that's why it's important like to say it. Or oftentimes if somebody also correct you, have a heart like to be we must have a heart like to be humble, and accept this correction, because ultimately like it is for the good of us. It's for the good of us. As James again, James chapter 5, I'll read this one. James chapter 5 again, verse 19 and 20. It says, my brothers and sisters, if one of you should wander from the truth, and someone should bring that person back, remember this: whoever turns a sinner from the error of their way will save them from death and cover a multitude of sins. So that's why correction is important, because ultimately what you are doing is you are saving that person from sin. You are saving that person from sin. And if we accept correction also, we are actually overcoming that sin, right? It will cover over a multitude of sins. So that is also important, because in this way, like if we correct one another and if we help each other out, ultimately we will able to live a life of peace, live a life that is Christ-like, so to say. And then the other thing we can support one another is through helping. Now, like for example, like helping in what way? If you can do the if you can help a person, then at that time, the Bible also says this, like if you happen to have a if you are able to help a person at that time, then don't tell that person like, come again tomorrow, I will help you tomorrow. If you are able to do at that time, right? Even the Bible says this, but I don't remember the verse. That's why it's important to help each other if you can. Sometimes like a person may be hungry, a person may be out of food, maybe no clothing, and then like you are able to help that person, so you can just go like, okay, I will pray for you, I'll pray for you, brother, pray for you, sister, right? What they need is food, and what they need is clothing, and then you can just offer them prayer. Like that is not a good that is not a good way. Even James again, chapter 2, verse 14 to 17. I'll just read out for you. It says, what good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, go in peace, go in peace, keep warm and well fed, go in peace, and then you keep warm, you well fed, but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? So this is also another good thing, like to help to help one another, to support one another. If we see any person like that are in need, maybe financially, it could be like physical needs. Maybe they need you to be with them sometimes, like they're lonely, maybe they're feeling depressed all alone. So like it needs like for you to be with them physically. So you can just go to a you can just say to a depressed person, to a person who is feeling lonely, okay, I'll pray for you, maybe you'll find, so that you can find peace, right? So that is not like a very good uh what a good Christian should be. So also, like I'm telling you this, not because like I have overcome all these things, by the way. I'm telling you this so that we can grow with together, right? We can overcome these things together. And then the last thing we can help one another is to forgive one another. To forgive one another. Forgiving is also another thing, like you can support, you can provide support. If you have if you have if you have done something wrong to anyone, right? How can you some sorry, if somebody has done something wrong to you, and then like if that person is in need, then you won't be able to truly help that person if you still carry that guilt, if you still carry that feeling of vengeance, or maybe um, feeling of resentment towards that person, right? So not like like I've mentioned earlier, loving each other. So in this way also, forgiving one another is also like the same thing as the first point. To truly help a person, like we must also forgive them of their wrongdoings. We must forgive them of their wrongdoings in order to fully, if or to truly to be able to support that person. So that and then I will like to wait, there's one verse from Colossians chapter 3. Colossians chapter 3, verse 13. Can somebody read out for me? Colossians chapter 3, verse 13. Yes, hello.
Colossians.
Yes, chapter 3, verse 13.
Okay. All right. Let me read it out. Colossians chapter 3, verse 13.
13, 13.
Bearing with one another. It's 3:13, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. It says, bearing with one another and forgiving one another. If anyone has a complaint against one another, against another, even as Christ forgave you, so you also must do.
Yes, exactly. So we must forgive one another, right? In order to be able to help another person. And in fact, I just want to read again another verse, which is um, from First John. Let me just find it out. From First John. Yes, it's saying here, for whoever, from First John chapter 4, verse 20, whoever claims to love God yet hates a brother or sister is a liar. For whoever does not love their brother and sister whom they have seen cannot love God whom they have not seen. Right? And there's also another verse that says like, if if um you cannot like if you have still have a vengeance over someone, or maybe you have done something wrong to someone, you must go and ask for forgiveness, or you must go and forgive them first before coming to God with your prayers. I don't remember though the verse actually verse the actual verse of that, but I've read it somewhere in the Bible. So that is also important. Like we must, so in order to be able to pray, we must also forgive one another, because that will give you a clear conscience in your heart, to in order to be able to truly pray for that person, or in order to be truly help that person. And finally, to sum it all up, I would like to read out First Peter chapter 4 verse 10, as brother Niasha have read earlier. First Peter, mm, First Peter chapter 4 verse 10. So um as I'll just read it again, into brother Niasha have read it earlier. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various form. Finally, like to just to say, to in order to um, just like God has granted us various gifts, right, in life, so we must serve one another. Okay, just as Christ like hath served us, so we must also serve one another, and then we can serve one another through what? Serve in terms of support, right? We can serve in terms of through our love, by loving each other. We can serve through prayer. We can serve by using our mouths to correct them, and we can serve also by helping them, right? Whether it's physical help, financial help, or maybe like they need spiritual help, whatever it may be. Okay, and we can also serve them by for through our the service by forgiving them. Okay, so these are all the things that I want to share with you all. And then like what I can learn from this passage that we've read. um, it's all about support, and then learning to fight together with God. And finally, like I would just like to read out that Moses, he said, the Lord is my banner. Now I've also looked out what, like actually I've studied that part, like what does that mean, like what does it mean when he says like the Lord is my banner. So a banner I'll just this actually a definition that I got from the internet, is something that identifies and unifies a particular group of people. Okay, a banner is something that identifies and unifies a particular group of people. And so Moses, when he's saying that the Lord is my banner, it was a way of identifying themselves, means the Israelites, as a unified followers of God. Okay, when they said like the Lord is my banner, that means we are identifying ourselves as a unified followers of God. And then banners, if you notice, banners are not put at the back, they're not put in the middle, but usually banners you always carry out in the front, right? Banners are usually put in the front. So what Moses is saying that in our fight against the Amalekites, our God will be in front of us, fighting against them. So it should be also with us. Whenever we receive any trouble, we should put God in front of us. Like whatever it is, okay? How big the trouble may seem, how small it may seem also. Sometimes there's a trouble where you can do by yourself, but then like some maybe like I don't know if it happens to you or not, but one small trouble can lead to another big thing and then it could lead to another big thing, right? It happens like that. So that's why it's important, like we should put God first whenever we are faced with any struggles, and put his promises, okay, as a weapon or a resemblance in order to overcome our struggles. And finally, like I just want to close with this. Ephesians 6, like it talks about the armor of God, right? It talks about the armor of God. There's the helmet of salvation, there's the breastplate of righteousness, there is the belt of truth, there's the shoes that's fitted with the readiness of the gospel, that means fitted with which are ready to share the gospel, and we have the shield of faith and the sword of the spirit. But if you notice, what you can notice is that our backs, okay, Paul didn't say anything what it can be done to our backs. Our backs are widely open, mainly because like we must face we must face the devil, we must face Satan, not with our backs, but first like with our with like um by going ahead in front. We must face them face to face, not with our backs. That is the first thing. And in the another thing is that our backs are meant to be covered by our our another Christian brothers or sisters. Okay, our backs are need to be covered by them. You only focus on the front part, what you can do for yourself, or what you can do with your shield of faith for your friends, or maybe for your loved ones, or maybe for your other Christian and brothers. Okay, so that's why the back, he didn't talk about the back, because the back is actually meant to be covered by others. So with this, like I would like to close this message. I hope like it has been fruitful. I mean, I hope like it has, this message has been what to say uh, useful to all of you who have listened. And I would like to share also just a small thing, like this verse has actually helped me and my family overcoming the various difficulties that we faced recently. We have with our neighbors. Suddenly, like out of nowhere, trouble comes between us and our neighbors. So, and it was like at that moment itself that I was, that while I was reading this, I got to know all of these things, and I believe like it was God's will for me also to know these things, so that as a family we can be prepared how to deal with those circumstances. So it could be it could happen for you also one day. So I hope like this would encourage you as well. So anyway, that's all. Thank you.